Hello everybody, a very good morning to you and welcome back to another Taurex live trading session here on this Thursday morning. Hope everyone has had a good trading week so far. We had a very interesting day yesterday with US inflation, which overall was much higher than what we were expecting and what everyone was expecting. The reaction initially was what we expected, and it's turned around a little bit, which I think has given us potentially some new opportunities. I don't have any live trades open at the moment, hoping that today could be the day where that changes, because I like the look of some of the reversals that we've seen since the inflation print yesterday. Really the main event of the week. We do have some updates really on the situation in Ukraine and Russia, with potential peace deal talks commencing. I'll take that a little bit of a pinch of salt. I'm not quite sure. These things take time. There's a lot more to it than just the surface level. So we'll talk a little bit about that and the effect that's had on oil prices as well. And we do have some more high impact news events coming out today as well, in the form of US data again, and also UK data, which is pretty much just come out. So I'm not sure what that figure is. I know it's the GDP figures. So we'll take a look at that, because I think we may see well, definitely a stronger pound. I'm watching it tick up higher now a little bit, so it must have been a stronger GDP print. So we'll take a look at that as well. And of course, as always, this is a open and recorded session. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to message me in the Discord channel, like I know some of you do, and I'll be more than happy to help. Good morning to you, Curtin, and I hope you're doing well. And I hope you enjoyed the inflation print yesterday. Right, okay. Before we move on to anything, let's just quickly. I want to see what this UK GDP figure was. Let me refresh and then load up the charts, because let's have a look at the reaction of the pound. It's moving higher. I imagine it was a stronger GDP print. UK GDP, yeah, 0.4%. Wow, that's much higher than what the forecast was. 0.1% was the forecast, and we've got 0.4% GDP month on month. That's bullish for the pound in the short term, definitely. A pound which has really been sold into quite a lot over really the start of this year and the back end of last year. So this could be a potentially good opportunity to maybe go long on the pound. So let's have a look. I don't really fancy it against the US dollar. Let's think of a potentially weaker currency that we can look at. Let's move on to the pound. Here we go. Right. So it is the high. The dollar is really actually becoming quite weak, which is strange. I don't really buy the move much. Let's have a look at something against the Australian dollar or the New Zealand dollar, because I know they're looking to cut rates. Four-hour time frame. Okay, right, so let's follow the market structure here. So there's our low, there's our lower, high low, sorry, high, sort of a change of character there, should we say? And then you can see this next leg higher. So for me, if you're looking for any short-term opportunities today, we could come and take out this high. There's liquidity there. Let me just move this mic so I can actually see what's going on. Come and take out this. So around this 2.2 area. So how many pips is that? That is 80 pips. I think we've still got in us on the pound versus the New Zealand dollar. Now it's going to be difficult because we've obviously just had this massive surge higher. So what we need to see, and it can happen with the news, is that we see a little bit of a reversal first. Maybe those who trade really simple, something that looks like this. Now, by the way, this isn't something that I would necessarily trade. I'm just seeing if we can get any short-term movement here. Anyone, any scalpers out there that like to trade on the lower time frames, maybe a bounce off of this high that was previously broken off the back of the news. There's that explosion in buying power in the pound. Retest. Look to carry on that momentum today. That could be a trade for today. So yeah, just keep a look at that. Keep a look out for that, because I think a lot of people have been down on the pound. I think the economic prospects in the UK are not that bright, if I'm being honest. And when we see a GDP figure like that, it's definitely something that I don't think was going to be expected. When you remember, the Bank of England actually cut rates as well, and that's a stronger economy clearly than what we expected. So That will come as a surprise, I think, to Andrew Bailey and the Bank of England. So we could see some more pound strength coming in the next week or so. Okay, right. I wanted to quickly talk about this as well. This was news coming out this morning. Trump and Putin have reportedly agreed to start immediate negotiations to end the Ukraine war after apparently a highly productive phone call. Now, the market reaction from oil prices was quite oil prices were lower because obviously that's going to remove that supply issue that the reason that we've seen oil prices higher is that supply constraint. Well, that sort of helps the supply constraint issue, and that's why we're seeing oil prices lower off the back of that. But I don't buy it at all. From experience, I've seen these sorts of things before, where we come out and we say, yeah, there's going to be a peace deal, or this is the very start. There's a long way to go before any sort of deal is made. So just be careful when you're reading these headlines. But it does open up opportunities for traders, right? Because if you're like me and you're a bit skeptical about that, because I'm not quite sure, I might be wrong, I'm not quite sure. Then it opens up the opportunity really for from oil longs, because the reaction from oil prices was that, this is when the news came out here. So Trump and Putin reportedly had a highly productive phone call about a potential peace deal. That's what we saw in oil prices spike lower. That's because of removing that supply constraint, as I said earlier on in the stream. However, I'm skeptical about this, and we've now traded back down into this daily demand zone, right? So maybe we can see a move down into that 50% and then a move higher. If the talks progress, then I expect more downside in oil. If they stall, if it's not quite what the headlines are saying right now, then expect a continuation of the trend of what we've seen over the few days before that, and that's more oil upside. Any views on the DAX? It just keeps going. Yeah, let's have a look at the DAX. So I'm probably going to post this one in the trade ideas section. And as well, we've also got that psychological support, that whole number 70 support as well down at this demand zone. So I don't buy it personally, but we shall see. The DAX. Do you know what, Curtin? I've not really looked at the DAX in a while. I don't know why it's not on my red list, because it should be. Wow. Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say we're bullish, but I don't think that's a particularly wild assumption. I mean, the best bet, Curtin, really. We need to see more. We need to see a pullback. I wouldn't be personally buying it up. I'll never buy things at all-time highs unless I'm investing. But in terms of trading-wise, we don't want to be buying high and we don't want to be selling low. That's the main thesis of trading. So right now, Curtin, I mean, it's all about waiting for a pullback, mate, to be honest. I'm trying to think of a way in which we could do that. I mean, we haven't printed the high yet. That's the annoying thing. When we do print that high, maybe try and utilize Fibonacci with the trend rider. So say, for example, that the high is printed here at 22,500, for example. What you might see is, this EMA 12, it might come and situate around one of these key areas. It might come and situate around the 38.2 or the 50, or maybe even the 61.8, and try and utilize one of these as a support area. The problem is that when you trade a market which is so overbought and stuff like that, you always have to be really patient with these markets. You look at gold, for example. You sit there and you get sort of natural FOMO because you see it's skyrocketing. You're like, how can I get involved? I wouldn't be looking for a counter trend sell. I definitely wouldn't be doing that. But I would be looking for something, a pause, a flag, even better, a deeper correction, something like that. So this is actually a good sign. This is the initial planning stage of a trade, right? So we see that move, we see that explosion. The markets always come and balance themselves out again at some point, and we just need to be ready for that for when that balances out. So my opinion on that would be to potentially, because I know you know the trend rider strategy, and I'm going to include it in the academy which I'm building for people. So yeah, I would utilize maybe one of these Fibonacci's on top of that. Okay. Cool. What else? Oh, that's it today. Right. So we've just had GDP out of the UK, which is stronger. But also later on today, we've got unemployment claims and also PPI out of the US. Now, here's the thing about the dollar. So we saw the reaction yesterday. If I just literally go onto the dollar index, the reaction yesterday when we saw that inflation print was that wick, right? Where you see that move to the upside. It then got pretty much aggressively sold into. Now, don't be fooled and think that, okay, so we're now bearish on the dollar. That print yesterday was bullish on the dollar, in my opinion, right? So, for me, if the PPI, which is basically services inflation, if that backs up the CPI of yesterday, and we get an unemployment claims figure, which is, again, another hawkish figure, I could see at least, at a minimum, the dollar coming back up to around the 108 area. What you've got to remember is there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, and I said this week, and there's not any clear direction. When you look at that daily chart, you can see that there's not really any clear direction. But if you had to argue, if you zoom out, look, this is like a broader pause. And so if we are going to get more of a hawkish than what's priced in at the moment, Federal Reserve, which is definitely possible after that inflation print yesterday, highest since July, then there's no reason why we can't see a move up to at least the top of the range at 110. Now, how do we find an opportunity on that? Well, for me, I like the look of dollar yen, because this is a 1 hour supply zone, and I'm basically taking the opposite side to the sell, which I made a percent off. Now, the one we put in the journal yesterday. I'm basically taking the opposite side of that, because we had enough buying power to break through that supply zone and create a bullish crossover, which is a good sign. What I'm looking for is a test here and then a move higher. So if I delete this, this is all old news. Okay. I'm looking for something like this. Potentially come and take out this high. No worries, Curtin. I hope that held, mate. That's what I'm looking for. 3.6 to 1 risk reward. But that's really how I'd play a stronger dollar print today. But it will need that stronger PPI and that more hawkish unemployment claims figure, which is out later on. So just make sure you're tuned into that. I think it's out for me. It is out at, where is it? Thursday. PPI, 1:30 p.m. GMT, so 5:30 for me in the evening. So the previous is at 3.5, the forecast is at 3.3. There's room for upside surprise here as well, which is why that marries up with that idea itself as well. So, and even if we do get a figure which is slightly softer, I still think that overall the view going forward is we're pricing out cuts. We're pricing out many more cuts to the back end of the year, if any. So I still think that overall we should be looking at the US dollar as a bullish currency. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll let the technicals decide that. But all the time we're still within that range on the dollar index, I'm still looking for some more upside. And I think dollar yen could be a good play. Okay. Good stuff. Right. That pretty much summarises it for today. In terms of the stock market, I know I didn't really go through that too much, but it's not really doing anything. So I don't trade markets that don't have any movement or any participation. There's a lot of people sitting on the fence right now because there's uncertainty around the Trump tariff situation. There's uncertainty around the path of the Federal Reserve, and there's uncertainty around now the peace deal potential talks that are going on. So there's a lot of things that haven't materialized yet, and we are still early in the year as well. So that's just very normal and typical of a early February trade. So we'll be patient and we'll wait for the opportunity to come to us. Okay, if anyone does need me, then I will be in the Discord channel. Continue to ask the questions in there, and I'll be more than happy to help. And we have a fantastic team behind the scenes that are helping with that as well if I'm not around, but I pretty much normally am. Do have a good trading day. Trade safe, trade well, and I will see you all very shortly. Thank you.